Don't you just love a great fight?
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Oh, you're in the first round with Ron Dolbeck, Chris Roberts, and Ray Boom Boom on the production side of the desk back there, talking about UFC. This is our UFC special video we're throwing out this week. And Chris and I wanted to talk about the biggest UFC fights that we want to see happen, that are either fights that are going to happen or we want to see happen in the next 6 months. We've had a couple good ones. Yeah. The Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman fight I thought was amazing. The Conor McGregor fight, if you go back to some of our archive videos that you can find right down here on YouTube, wasn't so amazing, and I thought it was a little overhyped, but that's what you get when you get Conor McGregor fighting. Chris, I want to start it off with one of the skyrocketing talents who has been around for a long time in the UFC, but hasn't really achieved much in the UFC, and that's Jorge Masvidal. All the speculation and all the hype and all the fighting videos that we're seeing, verbal fights now, are between Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman. This fight I am so ready to see. And before I say anything, I've got to say, the reason why UFC is going to pass baseball, and it could pass the NBA, is because they are so good at marketing their athletes, getting the athletes out there, getting the press conferences, and giving us the fights that we want to see. The UFC has gone light years past boxing by far. I'm still interested in boxing, but if I went up to the average kid in college right now, I said, name me 10 boxers right now around the world, they couldn't do it.
Me either.
And you just made my point. But if I said, name me your top 10 favorite UFC fighters, they could probably name 15 or 20 of them. Right. And that's because Dana White and the whole organization with UFC is so great at marketing and branding that they just reach out of that tube into your house. They get you interested, and they put out a product. That's the whole thing. They give us the fights that we want to see. Jorge Masvidal against Kamaru Usman, I want to see this. Masvidal is 35-13 right now. Yeah. And he's like the hot trending new thing when it comes to the MMA, besides Conor's comeback. And I'm a little skeptical about it because he's been around for a long time, but we're just starting to talk about him. Kamaru Usman at 170, he's 16-1.
Yeah.
And we saw what he just did to Colby Covington. He didn't break his jaw, but he got real close to it. I am so excited once they sign this fight to see it. It's probably the number 2 fight that could happen this year that I am so excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to see this fight as well. You know, I mean, when you think about Jorge Masvidal, the last thing that I remember significant for him was that flying knee to Ben Askren. That knocked him out in less than 10 seconds. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and then he had what I thought was a lackluster fight that really didn't blow a lot of wind up my skirt when he took on Nate Diaz in MSG a couple months ago. And he got the win there, and you know, he got the belt, the belt that will not be mentioned belt. But I think this is part of the hype machine that Conor has made so prevalent and made him so much money. Yeah. But hype doesn't belong anywhere in that cage. Once the door shuts, there's no hype. It's just you. And I'm not taking anything away from Jorge Masvidal, but when he gets in the ring against Kamaru Usman, I've seen what he can do, and there's not a lot of hype behind that. He's just a man that is focused, athletic, super skilled, and that right there is enough for me to want to take Usman in this fight. I'm not going to buy into all the hype.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, I mean, really, when you look at it, I mean, both of them are good strikers. I mean, because when you think about that last Nate Diaz fight, the doctor actually had to stop that fight. He cut him up. He cut his eye up so bad that the doctor had to literally step in and stop that fight. So, you know, I mean, I think it's going to be a good match between two good strikers. And, you know, it's a fight worthwhile seeing.
Anything could happen. But I love seeing the top people in their weight divisions at the top of their game. And you and I have talked a million times about the biggest error, I think, in boxing in the past 20 years has been dragging out the possible fight between Mayweather and Pacquiao, and we wanted it, and we talked about it, and it was years and years and years, and then I don't even care. And even though there was so much hype behind it, I didn't fall into it because I just didn't care at that point. I'm not seeing the best fighters at the apex of their game in their prime. I don't know, it just bugged me.
Yeah.
When money gets involved and greed gets involved like that, it bothers me because you're not caring about the fans. And without fans, there is no boxing. So I want to see guys who are the apex predators in their weight division going up against the second, third, and fourth contenders, whoever's there.
Right.
Now, I don't want to see, 3 versus 10. I want to see 1 versus 2. And that's what I think we're going to get with Masvidal against Kamaru. I like Kamaru in this fight when it does happen, though.
Yeah, really, yeah. So, I mean, the fight that I really want to see, one of the fights I really want to see is actually Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor. I actually want to see this fight. I mean, you have Justin Gaethje, he's 21-2 right now. He basically his last 3 fights, I mean, he's basically been KO'ing everybody lately. And, this is something that's very interesting. I think it gives Conor that challenge before, if he's able to beat Justin Gaethje, it gives him, maybe that win to his back to fight Khabib.
I think that's going to be a huge challenge, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I said before the Conor Cowboy fight that I thought Cowboy, it could go either way, but I thought Cowboy was a little long in the tooth. He had 50 fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
I thought Conor was motivated. Obviously, he got a first-round knockout. But after the fight, my level of being impressed wasn't as high as a lot of other people's.
Right.
And I think when he gets in there against tougher competition, like if he went in against, I don't think he could beat Khabib right now.
Oh, no.
I don't know how he would do against Justin Gaethje. What about Tony Ferguson?
Yeah.
I mean, when you put him in against better talent,
right.
My confidence level starts slipping down a little bit. You know who I have a lot of confidence in, and I thought really won a lot of respect for me, even though he lost the fight with about less than a minute left to go in the 5th round against Usman, is Colby Covington.
Yeah.
I mean, not only can this guy take a punch, we saw in that fight, whether you want to believe it or not, he could give a punch. He took out Lawless Robbie Lawler,
Right.
who we know is, tougher than nails. I mean, Lawler just spits galvanized nails when he drives a punch. Took him out, went the distance 5 rounds against Usman. I think more than stood his ground the whole time. Didn't get his jaw broke. He got jacked up in the 5th round, but I think he gave it as good as he got it. He's an exciting fighter. He's skilled. He knows what he's doing. He's got experience. He's got a little bit more than a little bit of that smack talk quality to drive the interest in it. But I look past that and I see the athletic ability. For me, I would love to see Colby Covington taking on Tyron Woodley, because for me, Woodley is on the downside of kind of his career after some significant losses, especially to Usman. And I think that he's motivated to get back to the top of that division, which I don't think he ever will.
Right.
But the motivational factor with that and Colby Covington, I think that would be an amazing fight to see. Tyron Woodley against Colby Covington in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great fight. I mean, the next fight I want to see, we're actually going to find it. We're going to get it. We're actually going to get it on March the 7th. And that is Wiley Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which is, to me,
Joanna needs this.
She needs something.
Joanna needs this win if she wants to get back to the top of the strawweight division.
Yes, she really does. But, I mean, when you think about Wiley Zhang, you're thinking about somebody who, she's a great striker, and not only is she a great striker, but she's also a submission specialist. I mean, you think about the last 3 fights she's fought, she's won by TKO, unanimous decision, and submission. So she can beat you either way. She can take you the distance. Yep. She can punch you and knee you in the face, or she can just tie you down and get you in the arm bar.
And after being at the top of the female side of the UFC, for as long as she was. Joanna, I thought Joanna was going to supersede Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, everybody that was up there at 125.
Right.
And then, Rose got her, and that was the end of that. And then ever since then, it's been this slow, steady decline going the other way. And for female fighters, I think her getting back to the top would be great.
Right.
But Joanna Jędrzejczyk absolutely needs this fight. She has got to win this fight. If she doesn't, it's over for her. She'll have a couple more courtesy fights, I think, over the next year or two, and she'll be able to pull some gates beyond the undercards. But if she doesn't win this fight, I think that it's going to definitely put a big time stamp on her legacy because she was on top, untouchable, and then it's starting to fall downhill. If she's going to get to the top again, this is an absolute must win, or the coin flips and it's over.
Yeah, pretty much is over. I mean, if she doesn't win this fight, basically, she can take the Ronda Rousey route, go join WWE, or start doing movies. I mean, but she has to win this fight.
Stipe Miocic at heavyweight, fighting out of Cleveland, Cleveland's finest.
Yeah.
Awesome guy. I love him. He's 19-3. He's the heavyweight champion. What about him fighting Curtis Blades? 13-2.
Right.
He's got a solid punch, or even a better one I'll give you is what about Derek Lewis at 23-7? Derek Lewis is like a madman under control with his punches.
Right.
He has been on a meteoric rise in the UFC heavyweight division, I'd say, for the last year.
Yeah.
And I think he's catching the eyeballs of a lot of the fans, if not Dana White himself. And I know he's not right there in the top 3 as far as contenders goes.
Right.
But that is a fight that I would love to see. And frankly, I think Stipe has been a little pedestrian with the scheduling. I mean, he's taken a lot of time off.
Right.
I know he fought DC, but that was a while ago. And I don't know. He's just not staying busy like I want him to as a fan. I want to see Stipe get in there. I would take Curtis Blades or Derek Lewis at this point. I think Lewis has a little bit more of the cachet. He's built up his brand in the last 6 months. He's definitely a hot item right now. But I would take either of those guys, especially Derek Lewis, just coming off that February 8th win over Ilar Latafini and on the John Jones undercard against Derek Reyes. I thought he did a great job there. Either of those fights I would be excited to see.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and the final fight that I would love to see is Israel Adesanya versus John Jones. I mean, we've gotten to a point where
Got to get through Yoel Romero, though.
Yeah, he has to get through Romero.
That fight's happening.
Yeah, that's happening. I mean, matter of fact, it's happening next month.
Right.
But, I mean, if he gets through that fight, this is a must-see fight. You have these guys that have been beefing. It's to a point where John Jones doesn't even say this kid's name. And, I mean,
But Israel Sante is at 185.
Yeah.
So is he going to go up? Because John Jones isn't coming down to 185 from light heavyweight.
Yeah.
So Israel's going to have to come.
He can come up. I think he can come up. He can come up and make. I think he can come up and make the weight. I think he can beef up just a little bit.
As much as you're right about this, and I would love to see that fight happen, I don't see it actually happening just because of the weight factor. Israel's been fighting at 185 and taking out everybody in that division.
Yeah.
He's 18-0 right now. I'm actually excited for the Yoel Romero fight. Yoel Romero's 13-4, but he is a man that has bad intentions. I mean, when that gate closes, he wants to rip your head off in a destructive way and doesn't care if your mom's watching.
Yeah, I mean, Romero. I mean, he's for him to be as big as he is. He's quick. He's fast. He can take you down. He has numerous ways to beat you. But yeah, just the fact that you have these guys that's been beefing for so long. I would love to see this fight.
Israel and John Jones.
Yeah, I would love to see this fight just to get it over with.
The presser after the fight, John Jones and Dominic Reyes, he was asked about Israel Asante.
Yeah.
He goes, he won't even mention his name. No comment.
Exactly.
Doesn't want anything to do with him. The guy doesn't exist. I've always said the worst way to insult somebody or put them down is to treat them like they don't exist.
Yes.
And that's what John Jones does with Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, and again, he does do that, but it's just, I mean, to see the clash with the different fighting styles. I mean, you have Israel Adesanya, who basically you could say he's a legend killer because I mean he did beat Anderson Silva finally and put him out of his misery. So I just a fight. I would love to see.
I would love to see it too, but listen, Chris, I don't see it happening, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer and be negative. I just don't see it happening as much as I would want to.
Yes.
Because you have the old grizzled vet who stays at light heavyweight, and you got the young guy with all the skills, the length, the striking ability, the intelligence, the desire coming up to light heavyweight from 185. I don't see it happening. I think there's other things in the light heavyweight division for John Jones, and especially right now. What does everybody want to see in light heavyweight? They want to see a rematch with Derek Reyes.
Right.
That's the first thing. And I think in a rematch, Reyes takes him out. Yeah. But that's a lot of hyperbole. Let's go to boxing. How about who I think is pound for pound one of the top 2 best boxers in the world right now, Vasily Lomachenko. Mm-hmm. This guy has multiple belts. The WBC, WBA, WBO, light heavyweight. I mean, he fights at 132, 133. When he gets in the ring, he's about 137. And I think this fight's going to happen May 30th. I think he's going to fight Teofimo Lopez, who I've watched several times. And to me, Lopez is like the young gun who doesn't know what he doesn't know. Right. He's got all the energy in the world. He's got a lot of talent. He likes to run the mouth, but he also likes to run those jabs and that right hand. I think he's got the talent to be in line for contention. I don't know if he's overstepping his bounds, stepping up to fight Lomachenko right now, because I think Lomachenko is one of the top 2 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. I think this fight happens May 30th. I think they're just literally a week away or 10 days away from signing this fight. I think it's going to happen. I'm going to be excited for it because you get a guy that's a grizzled veteran that's been in there for a while. And Lopez, you think you know what you're getting, but he hasn't really been tested yet.
Right.
And when he gets in there against Lomachenko, he's getting in there with a guy who's been around the block a couple times. I don't think he's going to go right through him. I think we're going to be set up for a great fight.
Yeah, I mean, and I can do nothing but agree with you on that, Ron.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you don't have a pick on that fight, Chris?
Nope. Look, man, boxing has taken a backseat to MMA right now. I mean,
I know, but if I could tell you, you could have any fight you wanted in UFC, or you could see February 22nd at MGM in Las Vegas, a heavyweight title that is like no other event in sports. It's like the most exciting 2 minutes in sports is the Kentucky Derby. It's just this iconic thing when you get heavyweights in the ring together. And I know you're excited about this fight between Deontay Wilder and the lineal champion Tyson Fury from Ireland. My people rising up. Look, we've talked about this before. Tyson Fury is technically a far superior fighter.
Yes.
But when we're talking about the bronze bomber from Alabama in Deontay Wilder, we're talking about a heavyweight that could, it's lights out in one right punch.
Right. And, it's been a lot of hype about this fight. I mean, this fight has been building up for since the last fight, actually. And, these guys have been making it around on the circuits, being at sporting events and different talk shows talking about this fight, hyping this fight up. I'm actually ready to see this fight because when you look at that last fight, it could have went both ways. I mean, you could have said Deontay Wilder
was technically superior.
Could have said it. Wilder
Deontay knocked him down. And how did he get up? That's the question in the heavyweight ranks that would be asked 50 years from now. Is how did Tyson Fury get up from that knockdown?
The $1 million question that everybody's asking was that a slow count? Who knows? I mean, so that's what makes this fight so interesting because you have the two different classic styles. You have one who can box, who's basically a technical boxer. Then you have the other guy who is sort of like a brawler. He winds up that one power punch like Lil Mac from Mike Tyson Punch Out. If he hits you with it, it's game over. So,
who you got in the fight, though, Mike?
Mike.
My bad.
All right, Mike.
Okay, the drinks are starting to kick in.
Yes, it is.
Chris, who do you got in the fight?
In this fight, I think it goes the distance, and I think it goes the distance. I think Tyson Fury wins the fight in a split decision.
I'm going to say Tyson wins the fight, too. You want to go a hat on it doesn't go the whole fight?
I think it goes the whole fight.
You want to go a hat on it?
I'm not.
I'm undefeated betting you on hats. I love expanding my hat collection with you. No. I say we go a starter hat on the fact that it doesn't go the whole 12 rounds.
Yeah, I think it goes. He's not going to knock Wilder out. I don't see that.
He's got a lot of power.
He has a lot of power. But
I'm going to take Tyson Fury in that fight, too. I don't think it goes the whole way. If it does, it's going to be Tyson Fury on points.
Yeah.
What an awesome fighting name, right? Yeah. Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a character, too.
Yes, he is.
Before we wrap up, let's hit UFC one more time. The question that we were asking after the Conor Cowboy fight was what? What's the next thing for Conor?
Yeah.
I've got something for you. Tony Ferguson, who I have a lot of respect for, I think he's an awesome fighter, and he took out Cowboy also.
Right.
Pretty much broke his nose. They had to stop the fight. We could get into that, but he was winning that fight anyway.
Right.
He's fighting Habib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
That guy.
If you don't have it written down in front of you, you might not pronounce it right. But Tony Ferguson is taking on Khabib.
Right.
I think Khabib goes through him on this, and I think it sets up a great match opportunity for Conor to take on Tony Ferguson at 170. And this is just taking the next step up for Conor.
Yeah.
He's not stepping in against Khabib. He's not stepping in against Gaethje. He's not stepping in against Colby, Masvidal, Usman. I think it's a reasonable step up. It's going to be a good challenge. It'll break the box office. They'll have a full house. You know, Conor will talk up this fight. And even though Tony Ferguson's not one to fight or build up the fight with his mouth, I really like this matchup. I think it works well for everybody.
I think it works well for everyone. But again, it goes back to now, you have Khabib coming out basically saying, I don't want to fight Conor anymore. I mean, I already beat that bum. And basically, I don't want to have anything to do with Conor. So, I mean, what's really going to happen? Are we really going to get this fight? Because Khabib really said he really doesn't want to fight him anymore.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting is that Dana White came out last month and said, you know, Khabib's got a lot of money, so that might not be motivating him. I don't know if Dana White goes to the let's strip his belt thing if he doesn't.
Right.
Because I think he could take on the second or third, or wherever Conor's at, they'll just move around.
Right.
And he'll say, "I'll take on the second contender, or the third place contender, or the fifth place contender," and he could just dodge it.
Right.
Honestly, I kind of actually don't want to see that fight happen because I don't see a path to Conor winning. I think that if Khabib gets in there with him again, he's going to string it out. His ground game is superior. His cardiovascular is superior. Yeah. And if Conor doesn't catch him with the left in the first 2 rounds, I think it's lights out for Conor in that fight. I really don't honestly have a lot of interest in that. I know the betting public and the fighting public do, but I personally don't. I think I can see the future in this one. It's not very bright for Conor.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I think that, if they do get into the fight again, I think he taps him out again. I mean, it's lights out.
Yeah. Check out all of our videos right down here. We've got over 50 archived videos. Find a subject that you like or something funny like the press conference that we did. And subscribe to The First Round. Tell your friends about it. Hit the notification button. And please give us a like. Help us grow The First Round to epic proportions. We will be back here every Wednesday and every Sunday doing live shows and on YouTube. We will be back this Sunday doing a live show talking about everything going on in the world of sports. Until then, take care, everybody.